So you just have to really put yourself in her shoes of what she's going through and just try and keep this whole experience positive. I like to call it not growing pains, but growing gains, because
Yes.
there are things we can do to make this time a little bit easier for our
I love
girls.
that, growing gains. What a great shift. Hey fans and listeners, Lindsey Elizabeth Cortes, sports dietitian, female athlete, nutrition specialist, your host of the podcast, and I've got a returning guest today, Erica Mulholland. She is a speed, agility, and strength coach based in Tampa, Florida, and online. She does virtual work consulting with athletes, parents, and coaches across the country. She has been working with athletes for the past 13 years. She's also the author of the Strong Female Athlete book, which is a science-based and experience-based text with a fresh, novel approach for youth female athletes to improve their speed, reduce injury, and increase strength. Erica's mission is to help them become strong, resilient, and creative through exercise, while inspiring them to love movement and sports, to not see these as obligations, but rather enjoyable escapes from the stressors of life. Erica provides small group training in Tampa, Florida, where she does, again, speed, strength, and agility in a competitive environment. She has worked with youth female athletes of all ages and levels, including in leagues like the ECNL, Girls Academy, ECNLR, and recreational athletes. She's worked with clubs like Florida Premier FC, West Florida Flames, Lutz Rangers, and Clearwater Chargers. Erica herself is a 3-time college All-American Hall of Fame inductee for Johns Hopkins women's soccer and former U.S. and Brazil semi-professional soccer player. She knows what it takes to play at a high level, and she is empowering and educating youth female athletes to embrace their strength and speed and take care of their bodies so they can reach their athletic goals as well. Head to ericasuter.com to learn more about her services or get her book, which is also on Amazon. And in today's episode, her and I are going to have a conversation focusing in on the growth spurt that youth and teen female athletes experience and what that means for their performance, for their muscles, how they should prevent injuries. And I love Erica's slogan that you'll hear: instead of growing pains, we want growing gains. For those watching on video and YouTube, not to be too awkward, but if you think I look a little different, I do. I have, like, my eye is swollen. So just don't worry. Your girl's an athlete, but not a fighter. I did not get in a fight, but I have like a sty and my eye has been swollen and red and puffy. I put quite a bit of makeup on and I think my lighting's okay. If you're concerned, please don't be concerned, because some people have been concerned for me the last few days, which I thank them for expressing that, because you never want to let things like a puffy or black eye go unsaid. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I just have a sty in my eye and hopefully it'll go away in the next couple days. So that's that for my video watchers. And for everybody else tuning in, enjoy our conversation. Hey fans and listeners, welcome back to another episode. We're here with a repeat guest, Erica Mulholland. She's a speed and strength coach and specifically works with youth female athletes. And that's why she's such a great guest that I've had on the podcast before. And today we're going to dive into a specific topic of growth spurts and how that affects training and nutrition. So Erica, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Lindsey.
So it's so nice to have this kind of partnership with you, since we have such a similar mission of supporting young female athletes. And so I was able to be a guest on your podcast a month or so ago, and I focused in on the nutrition for teen athletes. And that was such a fun topic to dive into that I even decided to write a blog about it on my own website afterwards. I was like, this was a good topic. So thanks for giving me that opportunity to share with your audience. And when I was speaking to your audience about the nutrition for teen athletes, so much that came up was the importance of nutrition because they're growing and developing. And so then we thought we'd have you come on this show and share more about that growth that's happening. It's such a massive time of growth for teenagers and growth spurts that are going on, and how this might impact, obviously, their nutrition, but also their training, their muscles, their bone development, their speed, their strength, all of that. So let's just start with a basic question. Like, technically, what is a growth spurt? What can we expect during this time? When is it happening? Things like that.
Sure. Well, I'm really excited to talk about this topic because I just don't think there's enough education around it. And I think a lot of coaches and parents need to know about it so that they can adjust training or help with different nutritional strategies during this time. Because, as you said on my podcast, it is one of the most second rapid period times of growth in a female athlete's life. So we have to really nurture them during this time and give them empowering tools so that they stay healthy. So during the growth spurt, or I guess the definition of growth is simply the increase in the body size and its parts. So when girls are going through their growth spurt, usually it can happen anywhere from ages 10 to 14. Some girls might begin that process sooner than others. Some might begin later. Usually the average age where it happens is like 12 and a half, where that peak growth is going on. And that's when you see girls just shoot up. The height is the first thing you notice. It's usually when grandma or grandpa are like, oh my gosh, she shot up like a weed. She's
Right.
growing so fast. So it's easy to just tell by just looking. But it's also the period of time right before the menstrual cycle starts. So girls who are beginning that growth spurt process, they haven't gotten their first menstrual cycle yet. So that's another way to kind of get a clue and as to when it's happening. And usually what happens during this time is, yes, their height increases, so their bones are growing fast, and they're actually growing faster than the muscles and tendons. And we can get into this later with different overuse and injury risk
Yeah.
because of this happening. But the bones are growing fast. Bone density hasn't quite filled in or peaked yet. And I know you talk about this a lot too, but during that growth spurt, the bone density is still filling in. So it is really important that we encourage girls to start resistance training, whether if it's with starting with body weight and then slowly progressing the load to really build those bones. Another thing that happens usually after the peak height velocity. So peak height velocity is during the growth spurt when the height increases the
Hmm.
most. But then after that, a few months after that, sometimes around 6 months after that, you have what's called peak weight velocity when it's their most rapid period of weight gain. And typically in female athletes, this happens more so due to fat mass increase. And before everyone gets scared and is like, oh my gosh, fat mass, it's important that they have fat mass during this time. It is essential for female athletes to protect their organs, to be able to bear children one day when they grow up. So I don't want people to get scared about the fat mass, but it
Right.
can be very disorienting for girls when they're going through that time because they are so tall, they're gaining weight, maybe they're feeling awkward in their bodies too.
Right.
And there can be declines in performance just during this organic process, just because they're growing into their body, they're getting used to their new limb length, their new weight. But it's something that will pass once they reach full maturation, whether they're age 14, 15, or 16. But we can also really empower them with tools during this time so that they can feel more coordinated and more balanced. And I'm sure we'll get into the training part soon, but
Yeah.
that's just an overview of what is going on during this time.
Absolutely. So I want to recap a few things that typically the growth spurt or that a big change in height might be seen right before onset of menstruation. And as you were talking, I was just reflecting on my own journey as a youth athlete. And I'm not sure that I ever saw a super big growth spurt because I'm generally not that tall anyways. I'm not terribly short, but I'm not terribly tall either. And so I was kind of this gradual consistent, but I am thinking back that I was always the short girl in the class until like, yeah, I think I did see a little growth spurt. And then that's when my menstrual cycle came soon after that as well. And then it was rather average height after that. So that's really good knowledge just if people are curious, like, when that menstrual cycle is coming, and you can kind of look at your growth charts as well and see if you've hit a growth spurt yet. That might be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are some really good ways to tell. I know like a lot of parents, they're checking in with their primary care physician and they're doing the growth charts so the
Yeah.
doctors can kind of give that predictive model of when the growth spurt's happening or if they're in the middle of it. But I really think the easiest ways to tell is just looking is height just shooting up all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Even foot size starts to grow
Mm,
rapidly. Are they changing their soccer cleats now? Are they changing their tennis sneakers? Like it's so funny because it's just these little clues that okay, this is happening now.
yeah.
But I think a lot of parents tend to get a little bit scared during this time because they might see their daughter moving more awkward or maybe not performing as well. And I just really want to encourage parents to give their daughter grace because she's probably going through it too.
Hmm.
She's like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening. I'm also about to get a period, which is a crazy life event. So you just have to really put yourself in her shoes of what she's going through and just try and keep this whole experience positive. I like to call it not growing pains, but growing gains because
Yes.
there are things we can do to make this time a little bit easier for our
I love
girls.
that, growing gains. What a great shift. And to that note as well, I shared on your podcast that during a growth spurt, nutrition needs from a caloric perspective are massively increased, maybe even as high as an additional 500 calories a day. And as we're mentioning, we don't know that it's happening until it's happening, right? And so I think sometimes parents also get a little scared of like, oh my gosh, they're eating so much food. One, it's hard to keep up with as a parent, buying all the food and helping to pack the lunches and all that stuff. So it's just like kind of like, oh my, when I say scared, it's like, it's kind of a lot to keep up with. I even see that. I have a 3-year-old and I see that some days I'm like, I can't keep up with the food because he's just wanting everything. I'm like, this must be a growth spurt. So, but to embrace that as well and also not think that this, if your teen athlete is suddenly or preteen athlete is suddenly like so hungry and grabbing the extra snacks, like to just allow that to happen because maybe you don't, instead of getting fearful of like, oh my gosh, they're eating junk or they're eating too much, it's like this is their body telling them that they need food and they need nourishment and they need calories. And to, honestly, sometimes kids are some of the best intuitive eaters. So what we as adults might not understand, like how can they be eating that much? It's their body telling them they need the calories and nutrition for growth.
Absolutely. And then you add on the training that should happen during this time to help them gain some like body weight strength and control. And then eventually you're adding dumbbells and
Yeah.
barbells to all of that. Then you need even more calories to
Yeah.
support the extra training on top of the growth in the schedule. So that's why I'm glad that we have these discussions because I just don't think people are talking about this enough and really educating parents on what's happening during this time
Yeah.
and the nutrition and the training that is required to have a very healthy growing girl and a high level athlete.
So you mentioned earlier that the bone shoots up first in a growth spurt before the muscle is put on, before, other things like the strengthening, the ligaments, the collagen is really catching up to speed. And so you've already alluded to that's the importance of, doing some weight training to get those muscles going. But what type of concerns does that play when we talk about training or injury risk?
Mhm. So the most one of the most common overuse injuries during the female athlete growth spurt is something called Osgood-Schlatter, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
when the bones, the femur is growing faster than the patellar tendon, and then that leaves a lot of pressure and stress on the knee. So usually that pain happens right below the kneecap,
Hmm.
and it could be something that's really dull and you can continue playing through it. But then there's some girls who it turns from a dull pain to a really sharp pain and
Mm,
it's unbearable that they can't even play their sport.
yeah.
So usually what I recommend for something like that is you have to first cut back on sport load because that's what caused it in the first
Oh,
place and it's an overuse injury from using that same joint over and over again and putting stress on it.
okay.
So you have to cut back sport load, which is very hard for people to do,
Yeah.
but you have to have that discipline up front because you don't want this to go on for any longer. And I've seen some girls just plow through the pain
Hmm.
and they still have it a year later and they hate going to practice because they're constantly in pain and then maybe they quit sport or get really frustrated. And it's just not a good situation. So I encourage people to cut back on sport load if it's really unbearable, but also at the same time with that, you want to supplement with some form of strength training.
Okay.
So for ages 10 to 14 in girls, by strength training, I mean if you are a starter, you need to start with body weight resistance first. So
Mm.
doing a lot of isometrics like lunge holds, or maybe like a wall sit to really build the quad muscles, or working on upper body strength with like crawling and climbing and like pull up type
Mhm.
movements. So it starts with body weight first. And then usually I like to start adding more load once they get through the growth spurt, once those growth plates start to close. And they also can prove to me that they can do the movements body
Yeah.
weight. We really don't need to rush with heavy load right away because that can pose a greater injury risk. So just really starting with body weight resistant strength and just working different muscle groups that the girl's not necessarily working within her primary sport.
Mhm.
So within the soccer community, there's a ton of Osgood slaughter because they're constantly running and cutting and jumping.
Yeah.
And when they come to me, I want to focus more on the glutes and the hamstrings and kind of take that pressure off the quad and the knee so much. So just really getting a variety as well, which is why I'm so against early specialization before age 13, 14.
Mhm.
But sadly, we see it happening a lot more now in younger and
Mhm.
younger girls where they're playing U8 travel and
Mhm.
it's the same sport year round. But and then parents are wondering why she constantly has an overuse injury. But there's your answer. I mean, we can't really go against all of the studies that exist for the dangers of early specialization and overuse injuries.
Yeah.
And we really have to remember that the growth spurt can be a very precarious time. So why are we overloading all of these muscles and tendons? Why aren't we developing a well-rounded
Yeah.
athlete?
It's just really put into perspective the difference between, training an adult, somebody who's done with their growing and why they can specialize in something and why it's maybe not helpful for young youth and like preteen or young teen athletes because they're not done growing and developing yet. So it's not a matter of like there's other reasons as well. We could talk about like the psychological, the social, the mental health. Like those reasons are still valid, but truly from a like, is this good for the joints, for the bones, for their development? That's why you're so adamant to say, no, it's not. Early specialization is not. And this is coming from somebody who's specialized in soccer and is very passionate about that. And even you're like, no, we need to develop a strong person first and foremost and get through this development first before we do too much because those overuse injuries are so common. I've definitely seen Osgood Slaughter's worth. Did I say that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that I experienced it. At least I was never diagnosed with it, but I feel like that was like the injury that all my girlfriends had so I did gymnastics. I had a lot of teammates that had it. And I remember them wearing this little band around their knee. I don't know that it did anything, but gymnastics and then
I think
soccer. I did soccer as well, and a lot of soccer girls had it.
I go to tournaments now and I constantly see girls this age range with knee
Yeah.
braces. And look, I'm not going to say a knee brace is worthless because some people find it to mentally just feel
Yeah.
better or give them more confidence, but don't use it as a band-aid. If you're still training with the same amount of load that caused the injury in the first place, then that knee brace isn't going to help you heal.
Yeah.
So I just want to be really clear with that. And then another one, just talking about other common overuse injuries, another one is Seavers, which is when girls get overuse pain in the heel, the growth plate is still open. So that's a really common one. And the solution's still the same. It's cut back in the sport
Hmm.
load, do less running, cutting, and jumping because that tends to aggravate the heel more, sprinting at top speed, and really start to strengthen the foot, the calf, the whole
Yeah.
leg up the kinetic chain, and also do your stretching as well. So yeah, it's all the same solution for a lot of these overuse injuries. Don't specialize year round,
Yeah.
have an off season, get variety. And the younger a female athlete is, the more general her training has to be. She has to just be working on a variety of motor skills. And then by the time she's in high school, we can get specific. We can do the more advanced lifts.
Hmm.
She can pick one sport to stick to. So I really want to just share that with parents because the longer I've been doing this, Lindsay, the more overuse injuries I see in this age group because of that negligence and pushing through.
Okay. I'm going to share a personal story. I share a lot of personal stories on this podcast. The summer before freshman year of high school, right before freshman year started, and I was going to compete on my freshman, sports, high school sports. I was going to do gymnastics that fall. I was a year-round gymnast, but I was going to join the high school gymnastics team. And we're on our summer family vacation, like right before summer ended. And my leg was hurting me, like down by my ankle. And I was just like rubbing it because it hurt. And I must have been rubbing it so much that week that my mom finally was like, "What the heck is wrong with your leg?" And she came over and she looked at it and felt the spot that I was rubbing. She was like, "That's not normal." It was this massive, like hard bump. And so anyway,
Mhm.
so we go to the doctor, and turned out I had a bone growth stemming from my growth plate in my ankle, and basically was growing an extra bone. And then it was pushing out and deforming. What are your two shin bones? What's the one kind of on the back or the side? The
The tibia,
tibia?
tibia and
Fibula.
fibula.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I kind of forget which one, but the bone was coming out of my growth plate and then pushing into either the tibia or the fibula and like deforming it and pushing it out. And that's what I was feeling on my leg, was a true like deformity happening. So we go through all the doctor's appointments and they're like, "Yeah, we have to take this out because it's deforming your shin bone." And so I saw an orthopedic surgeon, and I got through. I'm trying to think now. I'm super confused. When the heck did I do that surgery? Because I finished that freshman first year of gymnastics, and then I must have had the surgery done. I mean, they had to go in and chisel away this bone and get it out, which is good. And I think I was hitting, it must have been because I was in this growth spurt and was doing this pounding. And so obviously this is pretty rare. I'm like the queen of rare, but not terribly like non-malignant things happening to her. I have quite a few other stories like that as well. But my doctor at the time just said it's from the gymnastics and the pounding and the bouncing and so much you do. As my growth plate was trying to grow, it ended up growing a bone literally in the wrong direction. Isn't that wild?
That is wild, but I actually have heard that
Mm-hmm.
before. And yeah, it's more common than you
Oh
think.
yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
a pretty invasive surgery, but got it out. And then I think that's soon after, like my growth spurt was nearing its end that freshman year of high school. So yeah.
That's
Crazy.
crazy.
And
Yeah, and it's just such a wild time, but I think if people just do the basics and have off season, try different activities, do their consistent strength training,
yeah.
get their proper nutrition, they have a great fighting chance to not get any of these.
Yeah.
And I think people are forgetting to do the basics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wanted to hear, because I feel like when I think about doing like my experience with growing and participating in sport as a young athlete, I did feel like I was in a lot of pain. I remember going to bed at night and just like having my bones hurt, my knees
Mhm.
and my shins specifically. I think I also, as a gymnast, struggled with shin splints quite a lot. And my dad was always just like, "They're growing pains. They're growing pains. Are growing pains real? Or did I just need a higher anti-inflammatory diet? Like, was I not
Yeah,
recovering
that could be
properly?"
part of
Yeah.
it.
Or like, do you know, like, are those like those pain, like my bones hurt? Do you have any clue?
I'll be honest, I can agree. I mean, I think back then we just didn't have the training and nutrition
Yeah.
education that we do now. So yeah, I think a lot of it goes into maybe overtraining, under recovering, undernourishing, all those things, because usually kids should have a lot of energy and not a lot of pain. So
Yeah.
I don't think this growing pains thing, I don't think it's normal, but it's common,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be common, because now with what we know and what we're trying to share, people can again turn those pains into gains
Mm-hmm.
and actually feel great during this time. And you talked about it on the podcast that you did on my channel about how there's the importance of calcium for
Yeah.
the bone growth and development, and then protein and all these amazing nutrients that support growth during that time. And another thing I see a lot of is stress fractures too.
Yeah.
And yes, that's from overuse and pounding, but also lack of those nutrients that build bone. So Yeah, I think it's a multitude of those factors, but yeah, back then all of us were just winging it, and I remember feeling in pain a lot of the time.
Yeah. So do you see coaching your clients when you've got a young female athlete that is doing things by your book as far as like really holistic training, prioritizing her growth and development, not over specializing, adding in good body weight strength training? Like, is that female athlete not experiencing the pains that you and I probably did?
Well, it's hard now to find someone who doesn't early specialize.
New
So,
problems, the problems of this
yeah, but
generation. They're different than ours, but they're still problems. Yeah.
yep. But what I will say is the athletes that I work with, they all early specialize and pretty much play year round now. My
Yeah.
young girls, my older girls, is all of them. But I will say that the athletes that do really well throughout the whole year and they rarely get sore, they have no musculoskeletal injuries or season ending injuries, and they're pretty good the full year. They consistently strength train year
Okay.
round. They consistently do speed training and they do in-season speed training, which is just very small, very microdose speed training, only 1 to 2 sprints in a speed session, but we're keeping them up with those max velocity movements
Hmm.
that tend to cause injury. So we're
Yeah.
just keeping their body getting that input. And then they also do a very good job getting enough calories, staying fueled, staying hydrated, not just water, but electrolytes.
Hmm.
So, yeah, those girls do really well. And even though they're doing the year round craziness, they feel pretty good despite all that if they do the nutrition and the strength training.
Okay. So year-round strength training, short speed work, and enough calories and attention to nutrition, calcium, hydration. I refer everybody to the podcast episode I did with you on that one since it was really
It
good.
was
It
great.
was, yeah.
And another thing I would add is that make sure that on the micro level, they get 1 to 2 full days off a week.
Mm. Hmm.
Okay. So a lot of these girls practice 3 to 4 times a week and then have maybe one game on the weekend, sometimes two.
Hmm.
So that leaves maybe a Friday off
Yeah.
or a Monday off. And I say that off,
Yeah.
just go for a walk, do a non impact recovery session. Don't go for a mile jog because that's more impact to those
Yeah.
joints on top of all the sport load you're doing. So take those days
Yeah.
off. Do not schedule extra skill sessions and think you need to do more because the gains happen during those recovery days.
Yes.
That's where your muscles repair so that next intense training session or game day, they can have high outputs again
Hmm.
and you're not fatigued. And fatigue is a big injury risk factor. So that recovery on the micro level is really important. So yeah, maybe you're playing year round, 12 months every year, but can you at least take off 1 to 2 full days a week? And I would argue most girls can.
That's great. And I also think when you are in middle school or high school, there's going to be some built-in breaks to your season as well, be it Christmas break or like a summer break. And, going on vacations, going to the beach. I feel like this could be a time to honestly maximize, like take the week off. You don't need to train through it. You're not a 30-year-old professional athlete right now who might need to do active recovery or whatever. Like you can just enjoy your vacation. You can just enjoy Christmas break because that rest actually and extra nutrition during that time might actually be helpful and push them along in their growth spurt in the right direction. I just see that so important. Like it's a difference in when I'm working with certain college athletes, I understand that during their summer, like they've got to stick to their training to be prepared for next fall when they show up and their coach will give them a summer training plan. Like, got it. But I feel like these youth and high school athletes, I feel like they need a little bit more rest and recovery time and to just like, yeah, take your 2-week beach vacation and enjoy it.
100%. And when we do our summer off season program, we have a few weeks or even more as a deload period
Hmm.
where we're not really doing anything. We're just kind of doing like light movement and then getting ready for that first day. But I'll have a lot of parents say to me, "Oh my gosh, we're going to be missing your summer off season program for like 2 weeks this summer. We're going to be on a cruise. And I'm like, I don't care. Go on the cruise.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing a 3 month program, and you missing 2 weeks is not going to hurt anything. Maybe if you miss 2 months, like, you wouldn't get much out of it, but
Yeah.
it's okay to take that recovery. And then also, if you're someone who consistently strength trains year round and stays with it, then taking that 2 weeks to go on vacation is not going to be a slip up, right? It's kind of like with nutrition. It's like if you're pretty consistent in eating well most of the time, it doesn't matter if you go out for pizza or ice cream from time to time. Like it's not that big of a deal if you look at the bigger picture of your consistency.
Yeah. So helpful. Okay, so you share, as far as like, I want to go back to the point just to see if you have anything else to add to this, of the idea that during a growth spurt, we're growing up first and then we might be gaining the muscle, the fat as well. Are there any other concerns? I'm hearing you loud and clear. Strength train, I think, is the big thing here, because I think that's another issue that happens with performances. Then we start gaining the fat, which is necessary for hormones and development. But then some things change in like our strength to weight ratio, or, now we've got extra height and extra fat and we don't have the muscle to really know how to move it appropriately. Is there anything else that you would add to this conversation about like training techniques and strength training to help with that strength to weight ratio?
Absolutely. So I think when the peak weight velocity happens, when girls start to gain more fat mass, they shouldn't get too worried about it. Just continue to stick to the basics, like allow it to come on. It's totally normal, it's healthy, but you want to also start increasing your muscle mass. And this is where girls and boys kind of differ during this time. Boys tend to put on muscle mass quicker because of testosterone, but let me tell you, if girls are strength training, the testosterone can kick in too, and they can
Yeah.
also make some gains. But the key is, again, you have to be consistent, but you also have to progress those lifts. So you can't just stick to 5 pound dumbbells for an entire year. You have to slowly go up each week, because the muscles are eventually going to adapt to the 5 pound dumbbells and be like, all right, that's too easy. I'm not going to really grow anymore. So you have to slowly progress that, maybe go up to a 10, and then maybe you're doing a goblet squat with a 20 pound or a 30 pound. So that's like the one thing I would add, is you have to keep progressing to put on that muscle mass to really gain that strength, and just to keep staying with it through adolescence, because usually girls reach full maturity around age 16. And that's when the muscular gains keep coming. That's when you really start to see, oh my gosh, like I'm getting some biceps here. Like my quads are
Yeah.
starting to pop out. And it's just like so amazing for girls, because they're like, wow, I finally like see it all coming together.
Yeah.
So I don't think girls should shy away from putting on that muscle mass. I gave a talk a few weeks ago about the benefits of strength training to a group of high school girls. And I gave just very different examples from different female athletes in different sports. So Serena Williams, I mean, she's been criticized for being bulky and looking like big, but she's the greatest tennis player in the
No
world. I mean,
kidding.
I don't think she would be able to serve a powerful serve if she didn't have
Right.
muscles. Like, it's just so crazy that we just still have this messaging going on. And then also Ilona from the US women's rugby team, who won a gold medal. Everyone criticized her for being bulky and manly and just all these ridiculous things. But she's one of the greatest at what she does too.
Right.
And rugby has very crazy demands. And I think there's certain female sports where you do need to have some sort of bulk to
You
you.
do.
So I think we need to accept that. We need to accept, okay, what are the demands of my sport? And why do I need to have this certain body composition to be able to perform those at a high level, but to also stay healthy?
Yeah. I even think in soccer and basketball, there's contact there, and if you get bumped by the opposing team, like, you need mass on you to push back or to stay on your feet, right? That's one of the reasons I struggled in basketball. I shared with you that I hit my growth spurt late, so I was a shorter one on the basketball court, but I also just, like, somebody would nudge me with their elbow and I would fall down. Like, You know, like I needed not only the height growth spurt, but I needed the weight and the mass on me as well to even like contend. So I think that's just such a great message that like mass is strength.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that's what female athletes should be chasing. Another thing that I said in this talk was, please stop weighing yourself. Like
Yeah.
we are not looking at the scale anymore because it doesn't give you the full picture of what's going
Hmm.
on. It's just a random number. So, I mean, if you really want to know what's going on, then maybe get a DEXA scan and learn what your muscle mass is, but or just go off of how you're performing or how you feel and your energy levels. I mean, I just think we get so caught up in the scale and
Yeah.
a certain weight, but the truth is everyone is a different height. Everyone has different genetics and how they store body fat or put on muscle. So just stay in your own
Yeah.
lane. It's just I think that's also an important message for young girls. And I think coming back to the muscle mass, I mean, you need it in all field-based sports to be
Hmm.
able to be comfortable with contact and to be aggressive, but it's also big in speed and having hamstring strength and glute strength and upper body strength. And you'll laugh at this. So I did this track
Oh,
meet
I
a few
saw. I
months
was
ago.
impressed.
Oh gosh. So for me personally, like, so I would say I'm more on like is it like ectomorph side? I don't know what you call it. Is it ectomorph? Is that the body type? It's like just like straight down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. The mesomorph
yeah.
is more muscular. Endomorph.
Yeah.
I don't use those in my nutrition practice, but yeah, there's a terminology
Yeah.
for
It's
it.
just like, so I would just say I'm more like just straight up and
Hmm.
down. But when I went to this track meet, so for me, I put on the muscle mass I wanted
Yeah.
to. I gained 10 pounds in muscle. I was really happy about it. But I was against these girls who had been sprinting their whole
Lives. Yeah.
lives and they were jacked
Yeah.
and they beat me by like 2 seconds, which is a lot in track.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, like the more muscle you have for that type of
Hmm.
sport, man, you're gonna outrun everyone.
Hmm.
So I was like just humbled as a soccer player over here. I'm like, dang, like these girls, it's different.
Yeah. Yes. But I so love that you went through that yourself. Just, it's so fun when, you know, us adult athletes get back into competition that we know we're so passionate about. And it reignites like the passion behind our messaging that you're sharing of like strength train, embrace your gains, be strong, embrace the muscle because that's what makes you fast. And then you had that firsthand experience of like one, you putting on your own muscle, which is awesome, but then also seeing like how it really makes a difference on the track, the field, or the court.
It was crazy. It was a really fun experience, but it's just like, wow, I think the commitment that is required to really get that strong for certain sports, it's just it's wild. And I really think female athletes need to put on that mass. I always say you can't go wrong getting strong. Like
That's
in
another fun little
anything.
saying. I love your sayings during
Yeah.
this episode. Can't go wrong getting strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really can't.
I've actually posted on Instagram just this week that I've gained some weight as well. And I don't step on the scale often, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like I do have a scale and I step on it from time to time. And so I recognize I hadn't stepped on it in months, but I recognize that I have gained weight since the fall. So like in the last like 5-ish months. And because I've been doing a lot more strength training, like a lot,
There
like
you go.
lifting
Yeah.
heavy. You know, I've always lifted. I've always done strength training, but I stopped running due to injury. And then my lifting, I was getting so bored. And so the only way to make lifting more exciting was to go heavier.
There you go.
Challenge myself. So I've been going way heavier and now it's fun because now it's exciting to be like, you know, step up to the bar and be like, I don't know if I've ever done this weight before. Let me see if I can do it today. And not every day. I'm not maxing out every day because I would crush myself. But then I stepped on the scale and I was like, oh, I have gained weight. But I'm like, but it's strong and it feels good. And I'm having fun in my workouts. And that's ultimately the point for me is to do something that's engaging and keeps me healthy. So again, it's just that proof that like gaining weight can be muscle and strength and something that keeps you in your sport and keeps you strong. And it's just a narrative that we want to keep changing. I want to go back to your recommendation that you said for the young youth and teen athletes of like, don't even step on the scale. And I definitely support that because from a nutrition perspective, like so many people will base their nutrition needs on their body weight. That's what a lot of our calculators, online calculators, our basal metabolic rate, our Harris-Benedict equations are based on age, sex, body weight. Well, guess what? You're still growing. We don't know what your ideal body weight is really supposed to be. In fact, if you're under age 18, there's no such thing as an ideal body weight, even though I have issues with that in the adult population as well. But if you're under age 18, you're actually supposed to use CDC growth charts and percentiles to track just if you're growing within, quote, healthy ranges. But the whole point too is everybody's experiencing a growth spurt at a different part. Are you having a growth spurt at 12 or at 14? So if you have your growth spurt at 12 and you're gaining weight at 12, that's why we use these percentages, because it's honestly comparable to somebody who might be older, 14, but going through the growth spurt. Like, yeah, they're a different age, but you're going through physiologically the same thing. And so we don't want to use these adult-based caloric equations to estimate your needs or an ideal body weight when you're still growing and developing. So when I work with a young athlete, and it's very similar. I don't even set weight goals for my adult athletes, but when you have an adult athlete who's had, 15 years of experience with body weight, meaning like, oh, this is what I was when I was 20, this is what I was when I was 25, this is what I was when I was injured, this is what you have more data points. But if you're 13 and you're comparing your body weight to what you were when you were 10, like, that's silly. Because you're a 10-year-old child and 13-year-old still growing, possibly hitting a growth spurt. So like, we're not going to set what is ideal or what is the goal. We're just going to nourish our bodies, fuel our bodies, strength train consistently, take rest as needed, and like, honestly trust in the body's growth and development process. And we don't want to make any judgments about weight or ideal body weight or even nutritional requirements based on body size until that growing and developing is complete.
That is so important, because if a girl is constantly looking at the scale during those adolescent growth years, she's going to be disappointed because it's going to go up regardless because of just normal growth. And then if she is adding the strength training when she's like 15, 16 and really starting to lift heavier and do more volume, yeah, she's probably going to go up in weight because she's putting that muscle mass on. But I don't want girls to step on the scale and be like, oh my gosh, I went up 5 to 10 pounds, and then they start to back off on their calories or nutrition. That's when it gets really scary. So yeah, I just throw away the scale altogether. It's just not going to help. You're just better off, like you said, focusing on the basics and just let the clock do its job.
Let the clock do its job. Yeah. This is a very real problem. I just had a conversation with a mother in the local gym that I go to who has a 9-year-old girl, and her and I we go to the gym at the same time. So we start chatting and blah, blah, blah. And she told me her 9-year-old, she's 9, she's not an athlete, she's just a girl. But that her poor mom was like, she told me the other day that she's gaining weight and getting fat and doesn't know what to do about it. And I'm like, it's just, my heart sunk, because I'm like, she's growing. So we as adults, as coaches, as dietitians, as parents, really need to change the narrative for our young and teen girls that you're not gaining weight in the way that society terribly uses that phrase. You are growing. You are getting strong. That's what we need to say instead.
I think that's perfect.
Hey, I've realized in my last few episodes, I keep forgetting. I don't know how. I always ask the same fun questions at the end of my episodes, and I've been forgetting to my last few episodes. I've probably asked you these questions before since you're a repeat guest. Do you remember them?
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, let's do it again. If there's one food you could eat every single day for the rest of your life but never get sick of it, what would it be?
I remember this one. I forgot what I said last.
Maybe it's changed, or maybe not. We'll have to look it up.
I don't know. I mean, I really love eggs. I just can't get sick of them, and they're just so nutritious. So
eggs, there you go. I've been eating eggs almost every morning myself for a while now. So yeah, I love eggs. Okay, what's your favorite sport to participate in?
Well, I would say soccer, but recently it's been track and running sprint.
Love it. Did you compete in the 100? Is that what you did? 100 meter?
I did the 60
Oh,
meter,
60. Oof, super
which
short.
I think I was in the wrong race. I think I need to do like the 200 or
200.
400.
Yeah, soccer players are typically good at 400, 800.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm like a true like sprinter.
Yeah. The 400 is a sprint, but 400 meters long.
Yeah, but
And
it's different.
it's so crazy. Track, like every race is hard in its own respect, but then it's like the 800 is just doing the 400 twice. It's like, it's still so fast.
Oh, I can't do that.
It's so fast
No.
still. It's crazy. Like obviously there's a difference, and yet
Yeah.
try the 400. Bump up. Do the 200 and then
Yeah, I'll do the 200 next, I think.
okay, and then a female athlete you want to give a shout out to for being super inspiring, a role model. She can be super well known or someone in your personal life.
Ooh, I would say Mia Hamm, just because I grew up watching her, the 90s U.S. women's soccer team.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've like read her book when I was young, and it just like got me really into watching women's soccer and like getting passionate about.
Love it. Mia Hamm and her book. Sometimes it's nice to refresh our memory of books that were published like, 10, 20 years ago, because that athlete's story is still useful and applicable in today's generation as well. So people will love soccer. You got a young teenager or youth athlete, go check out Mia Hamm's book. Go check out Erica's resources. So go ahead, give your elevator speech about how you can help female athletes if people are interested in your services.
Sure. So I just recommend people follow me on Instagram to start. And then from there, you can get everything. I include it in the link in my bio, but there's books. Female Athlete High Performance is my most recent book. And then I also do remote training and consulting for parents of female athletes and also their coaches. And my most recent venture is doing more coach education, because I feel the more I can educate coaches on how to do like injury prevention within practice and just like talk about good recovery strategies, the more I can impact more girls.
Mhm.
So I'm really starting to get into like the coaching education space.
Yeah, and I think there's a big space for that in my work as a dietitian as well. It's like, if you're a coach listening to this, reach out to Erica, reach out to myself. We can, whether it's local, come on site, or virtual, just like do a presentation, because then you're going to get education, tools, and inspiration for your entire team and resources that are going to help you all season long. And then maybe one or two athletes on that team do want to reach out to you individually as well. But as a coach, you've now offered this amazing service to an entire team. So I think that's great work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always exciting. And I'm passionate about this group of girls because I think there just needs to be more education and resources.
Well, thank you so much, Erica. We'll have you back on the podcast again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Please help spread the message of empowering female athletes to be fierce, fit, and fueled by giving this podcast a 5-star review and leaving a comment. You can also help more female athletes by sending this episode to a friend. Head to lindseycortes.com for more resources, information, more episodes, ways to work together, downloadable guides, and ebooks. And if you're interested in becoming a guest on the show or have a guest suggestion, head to lindseycortes.com/podcast, and there's a form for you to fill out to get on the show. Hey, there's more resources on my YouTube channel, Female Athlete Nutrition, Instagram at female.athlete.nutrition, and private Facebook group, Female Athlete Nutrition. I think you get the point. I'm here to support female athletes by fueling better and becoming fierce, fit, and fueled. Most importantly, if you need help, reach out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next show.